I warned them. I warned the HOA board, begged them really that blocking my snowplow route wasn't just stupid, it was lethal. But they laughed, slapped me with fines, and told me I was a liability. And when the whiteout finally hit, when their luxury SUV Convoy vanished into a blizzard so thick it erased the world, they were the ones screaming for help, begging the same man they tried to punish to come save their lives. I still remember the hum of my old International 4900 every winter morning long before the sun came up over the Rockies. That truck wasn't just a machine, it was my partner, my shield, my promise to a neighborhood that didn't even know how much it depended on me. I didn't plow those roads for praise. I did it because someone had to. The old man who needed dialysis at dawn. The nurse dragging herself home after a graveyard shift. The single mom who couldn't miss another day at the diner. They were the people behind every scoop of snow I pushed. But HOA boards, HOA boards never appreciate quiet work, not until it's gone. Things started to change when the new leadership rolled into Ridge Point Estates. Derek Langley, the shiny-haired, shiny-watch HOA president with a brand-new Lexus and a talent for acting like he ran a small country. And Lynn Carter, the vice president, whose clipboard felt welded to her hand like she measured her self-worth by the number of rules she could enforce. They branded themselves as the Reform Board, though the only thing they reformed was how fast they could ruin a good thing. One morning I found a plain envelope shoved under my garage door. No signature, no courtesy, just the kind of cold, bureaucratic language that made my jaw clench, cease and desist from all snow removal. Unauthorized operation, legal recourse. I read it 3 times before walking to that ridiculous converted pool house office of theirs, boots dripping melting snow onto their spotless tile. And Derek, he didn't even look up from his tablet. He just waved me off and said, "We're bringing in professionals now." Professionals. That word tasted rotten coming from him. I'd kept the East Ridge access road open for 12 straight winters. 12. It was the only viable escape route whenever the main boulevard drifted shut. In blizzards it was life or death literally. But Derek wanted consistency and regulation, wanted order, wanted control. So the barricades went up, big metal things they rented from who knows where, planted right across the only route paramedics could reliably use. And just like that, everything I had done for more than a decade became illegal. I didn't touch the barricades, didn't argue, didn't scream. But something in me cracked that day. It wasn't just about the road. It was about being erased, like all those storms I'd fought through meant nothing. Then the sky changed. The forecast started mild, then doubled again. By nightfall, the Weather Service was calling for 24 inches hurricane-force gusts and total whiteout conditions. The kind of storm that eats highways for breakfast. I texted Derek one last warning. He replied with 6 words, "Please allow the professionals to handle this." The professionals never showed up. By morning, the world outside my window was gone, just a screaming wall of white slamming sideways across the foothills. Drifts piled up to my waist. The temperature dropped so fast, the snow turned powder dry, the kind that packs into concrete under the wind's weight. At 9:12 a.m., my phone rang. Sheriff's Deputy Dave Meyer, voice strained, wind roaring behind him. "Tom, please tell me that old rig of yours is fueled and ready. HOA's got 3 SUVs buried halfway up East Ridge. Visibility 0. 1 vehicle's tilted. Contractors nowhere. They're saying the route was supposed to be open." There was no hesitation in my body, but there was in my mind. Because to reach them, I'd have to break the HOA's barricades, break their rules, invite more fines, maybe even lawsuits. And the question hit me hard. Why save people who had just slapped me with threats and punishments? Why risk everything for them? And then the colder thought. Because the people inside those SUVs might die if I don't. Duty has a way of rolling over pride. So I pulled on my heaviest coat, fired up the plow, and slapped a GoPro on the dash, not for glory, but for proof. If this got ugly, I needed every second documented. The barricades appeared like orange ghosts in the blizzard, half swallowed by swirling snow signs whipping violently. I lowered the blade. No hesitation. Steel met steel with a scream. The barricade folded like a cheap lawn chair, skidding into a drift and disappearing. And just like that, the East Ridge Road belonged to me again. The climb up Hawthorne Hill was brutal. Drifts towered like frozen monsters on either side, wind slamming my truck sideways, chains rattling, engine roaring to stay alive. Visibility dropped to 15 feet, sometimes 5. I drove by memory, every dip, every curve, every treacherous patch etched into my bones. Then headlights flickered through the storm. 3 SUVs, half-buried hazard lights blinking like dying fireflies. I waded through thigh-deep snow to the first vehicle. The window cracked open, warm breath and fear spilling out. Lynn's face appeared pale, streaked, trembling. "Tom, thank God. We're stuck. Radios died. Phones, too. The contractor never—" "Stay inside," I shouted. "I'm cutting a path." The next SUV door swung open. Derek stumbled out. No coat snow crusted in his hair, arrogance carved right out of him. He tried to speak with authority, but the wind shredded his words. "You're not authorized. This road is closed." I stepped closer, and for the first time Derek truly saw me. "You closed it," I said. "You ignored every warning, and now your people are freezing." He backed into the SUV without another word. I carved a 6-foot trench around them, plow screaming hydraulics, straining snow, exploding in white geysers. One by one, the SUVs crawled free, trailing behind me like wounded animals. At the bottom of the hill, paramedics rushed in. Neighbors stared, stunned. "And Derek?" He dropped to his knees in the slush. "Thank you," he whispered. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't hear him, because the storm wasn't done with us. 3 days later, instead of gratitude, I received a fresh HOA envelope, a $1,250 fine for destruction of property and unauthorized snow removal. I stared at that paper a long time, longer than I should have. For the first time in years, I wondered if maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was holding on to an old responsibility no one wanted anymore. Maybe I should just stop. I almost walked away from it all. But then the messages started coming. The nurse's family thanking me for years of safe roads. The dialysis neighbor leaving cookies. The single mom from Elm Street saying her kids would have been stranded without my work. And then Betty, old sharp-tongued Betty McLaren, showed up with a folder of original 1999 development maps proving the East Ridge Road was designated as a priority emergency route. Marked, underlined, clear as day. That was all I needed. The doubt burned off like frost in sunlight. But winter wasn't done trying to teach the HOA a lesson. The second storm hit harder than the first. A true monster. And somehow, against all logic, the HOA sent another convoy up East Ridge. 4 SUVs this time. They claimed it was a visibility tour. Visibility was 0. This time, one member tried walking for cell signal, slipped, and bashed his head on a buried rock. One woman was already showing signs of dangerous hypothermia, and every radio channel went silent. They were stranded in a freezing coffin of their own making. I pushed into that storm again alone, cutting through walls of snow taller than my truck, wind roaring like something alive. When I reached them, it wasn't panic anymore. It was despair, real human despair. 8 people huddled inside one SUV, wrapped in foil blankets, breath fogging the windows. Janine, the treasurer, was slurring her words, slipping into the later stages of hypothermia. Dennis, the enforcement guy, was shaking a blood-soaked bandage pressed to his head. And in that moment, all anger drained out of me. All resentment. These weren't board members. These were scared people trying to survive a storm too big for them. "Help's coming," I told them. "Just hold on." We waited 30 of the longest minutes of my life before I heard the rumble of the county snowcat cutting through the white void. Deputy Dave jumped out first, grabbed my shoulder, and said the words that stuck with me for weeks. "You bought them hours, Tom. Hours." The news spread fast after that. Faster than the storm. Faster than the HOA could control. HOA board rescued twice by resident after blocking critical emergency route. By the time the next HOA meeting rolled around, the clubhouse was packed. People standing against walls crowding the doorway. Derek stood at the podium, no swagger, no smirk, just a man finally humbled. He thanked me publicly, called my actions brave, admitted the board had been wrong, proposed reinstating me as the official emergency operator with full authority and no restrictions. The vote was unanimous. They handed me a metal tag engraved with the HOA seal designated emergency operator. I held it feeling its weight and said only this: I didn't do any of this for recognition. But remember, when rules clash with reality, storms don't care about bylaws. Listen before the mountain starts talking. The room was silent for a heartbeat, then erupted in applause. I didn't smile, didn't bow. I just walked out into the chill evening air, the weight of the tag settling into my palm. The storm had broken, but its message still echoed. And the message was simple. Some lessons have to be carved through the snow before people finally see the road.